Namaskar, hello and welcome viewers. You're watching Perspective with your host Kruti Mishra. Decks were cleared for a presidential election on Tuesday, with the ruling BJP naming Jharkhand former governor Draupadi Murmu from Odisha and the opposition choosing former Union Minister Yashwant Sinha. Both sides announced the names after hectic discussions. The first to hit the block was the opposition in the afternoon, announcing the name of 84-year-old Sinha, while 64-year-old Murmu's name was cleared after a meeting of BJP's parliamentary board, which was attended by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, among others. The president is elected by an electoral college consisting of MPs of both houses of parliament and MLAs of the states, Delhi and Puducherry. Nominated members of Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha and the assemblies and members of state legislative councils are not part of the electoral college. The President of Republic of India is the head of Indian state and commander-in-chief of all the Indian armed forces. And to discuss various aspects of presidential election of 2022, I'm joined by an illustrious panel of guests. Joining us through virtual platform, Mr. Prakash Javadekar, Rajya Sabha MP from the BJP, Mr. Sujit Kumar, Rajya Sabha MP from the BJD, Mr. KTS Tulsi, Member of Parliament from the Rajya Sabha representing the Congress Party, and also joining us on the show, Mr. Shekhar Iyer, Senior Journalist. I welcome all of you on Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us. And Mr. Javadekar, let me begin the program with you. If elected, Draupadi Murmu would be India's first tribal president and the second woman president. Your opening thoughts on that?
She is definitely going to win, and she will win with thumping majority. Because I don't want to comment on opposition at this stage, but the die is cast, and it is very clear that India as such has nearing the majority, and there are other parties which are supporting us. So we will win hands down. The issue is, and that is the importance of this, as you said, she will be the first tribal prime minister. Tribal is 9% of our population, lives in forest mainly, and they were neglected hitherto. So they get that position, which is the first position of the country. Not only head of the three armed forces, but more importantly, the government runs in his name. He addresses parliament by saying that my government has done this, my government will do this. So all this represents the stature, and all the government actually functions in his name. So it's a very important position, number one position, not only in protocol, but in every sense of term. And therefore, Draupadi Murmu, a tribal, an experienced teacher, minister, governor, and at the same time, this is women empowerment and represents the East. Nobody from Odisha has become president so far. And therefore, this is a very good choice, and she is 54. So she will be active. And I'm very sure that in a way, election is a formality, but let opposition fight it. Let us see how all parties decide to vote. But we are very sure of victory, and we will win for the people. This is a message by Modi government or the BJP. This is BJP candidate at the moment. And so we are giving a message that yes, we are committed for the upliftment of the last person in the queue. That is the message what this candidature signifies.
All right, Mr. Javadekar, let's get opposition's view on that. Mr. Tulsi, earlier we were hearing the names of Mr. Sharad Pawar, then Mr. Farooq Abdullah, and then Mr. Gopal Krishna Gandhi. And finally, Mr. Sinha is opposition's pick. Tell me about opposition strategy.
Well, I think this is a very important election in the sense that, after all, the president of the republic is going to be elected. It is going to be interesting debate because 48.9% of the vote share is with the BJP, and 51.1% of the vote share is with the opposition. Now that brings in the regional parties. It seems that nothing is going to work, not the BJP, not the opposition, but the regional parties will perhaps have a much greater role to play. And it's a fact that not a single president has been re-elected after Mr. Rajendra Prasad's sole exception. So the election was inevitable, and election is going to be decided by 76 members of parliament, whose vote value is 4,033. The total vote value of the legislators and the MPs is 5,43,200, and there will be 4,809 electors with a vote value of 1,86,431. But all eyes are now on with regard to with the non-aligned parties, and they include 5 of these parties who will play the significant role. One is the BLD, the other is YSR, Congress Party, 3 is Telangana, 4th is Trinamool, and the 5th is Aam Aadmi Party. So this is going to be a different kind of election, and it seems that Nitish Kumar is famous for being unpredictable. What will happen, the extent to which the regional parties will hold the key, will only be known after the election. But one thing can be said, that Nitish Kumar is known for being able to take contradictory stand, and he did that on the population control policy, he did that on the caste census, and he might play a different card, unexpected, which it'll be. So I think
Right.
Even in Pranab Mukherjee's case, Mr. Nitish Kumar did not go along with the BJP or the parties, and therefore this election becomes fairly critical. Although the president is titular head, but of course this is much sought after. And
Yes, sir.
Ms. Murmu's selection has been widespread, welcomed by all, and it is, I think, a great choice. You have a lady, and you have a lady from Adivasis. This is an extremely great honor to be conferred upon them.
All right, Mr. Tulsi, you mentioned about the importance of regional political parties. Let's get in Mr. Sujit Kumar here. Mr. Sujit Kumar, proud moment for Odisha here. The stand of your party, of course, is clear, but certainly there is happiness in Odisha.
Certainly, Kirtiji. First of all, it's a proud moment for every Odia, for everyone in Odisha. In fact, today, Honorable Chief Minister has hailed Ms. Murmu as the daughter of Odisha.
Yes.
And I would like to hail Indian democracy, the strength of our democracy, that someone like Ms. Murmu, who comes from such humble background, is almost certain to now be the commander-in-chief of the nation, be the first citizen of the nation. So this is the strength of Indian democracy. And as an Odia, as a member of parliament from Odisha, I would like to thank Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji and all the NDA parties for nominating Draupadi Murmu. I can't think of a better choice than her. She's eminently suitable, eminently qualified to hold the highest constitutional post of this country. And I think there's a political messaging to it as well. As Mr. Javadekar pointed out, I think BJP wanted to send a political message that the nomination of Ms. Murmu signals that BJP as a party and India as a coalition are very much with the tribals. They are very concerned about the upliftment of the tribal, of the women. I think this political messaging, but nevertheless, I think the choice is excellent. She has worked for the downtrodden. She has worked for the field of education, for tribal upliftment, and her performance as an administrator, whether as an MLA or as a minister, and even as a governor of Jharkhand, has been stellar. So, all in all, it's an extremely proud moment for everyone in Odisha. And I think she will make a great
All right, Mr. Kumar, let's also understand the number game. Mr. Iyer, we heard all three political voices on the panel here. Help us understand the number game. How is the ruling alliance or the current dispensation or the opposition alliance placed in these elections?
Well, I think, the number game was already in favor of NDA, because NDA was only short of 20,000 electoral votes, whoever would have been the candidate. And they were already talking to all the regional parties, including YSRP, Congress, Biju Janata Dal, as well as, other parties. Now, with the announcement of Draupadi Murmu, the complete thing has changed because it's no more number, it is chemistry. Because already you have seen Nitish Kumar's party has welcomed Murmu's, choice. Therefore, I do not see any NDA ally leaving, choosing somebody else. And also, the opposition seems to be, caught in a kind of a confusion because they didn't have a candidate, they didn't have a strategy. That is why Yashwant Sinha's name had to be propped up at the last moment. Now, basically, between a choice between having India's first tribal president and Yashwant Sinha, Yashwant Sinha may have his own, achievements. He was India's external affairs minister, was India's finance minister. He has had a long career as an IAS officer. He was private secretary to Karpuri Thakur. I mean, there are a lot of things about him. But the overriding issue this time is giving the tribal representation because hitherto no tribal has occupied the office. I think this is the big message that the Prime Minister Modi ji sought to give and he has succeeded because we knew all along that whenever Prime Minister chooses a person for any constitutional post, there is a lot of social messaging involved, a lot of message of empowerment. So this time with the Draupadi Murmu, a lady as well as a tribal person who has actually worked her way up. It is not that she's being chosen, she's just because of tribal. That is an additional qualifier. But more important is, just as our BJD Honorable MP was saying, she belongs to Mayurbhanj district. It's one of the most backward districts in a remote place. From there, the way she came up, she was a teacher, then she contested the local elections, and from there she moved on to become an MLA. Then she was a minister with independent charge in Naveen Patnaik's government. I mean, for a union minister to get an independent charge itself is a very, then as Jharkhand governor. So she does understand the importance of the constitutional office that she has held before and now she is going to hold before. I think the overriding chemistry is going to see a lot of difference, and also Draupadi Murmu will be traveling to different state capitals, will be meeting her members of Electoral College, and I expect the Prime Minister, after he comes back from UAE, I am told he is also going to talk to the leaders of some allies who are in the opposition. I am told he will be talking to DMK, he will be talking to other parties who are already there. And also we must understand that Murmu is a Santal. Now Santal tribals are spread over 5 states.
Yes.
I mean, including West Bengal, Jharkhand is there, Chhattisgarh is there, you have parts of Madhya Pradesh, you have, of course, Odisha is there. So, see, even among them, the kind of, and when it, not just the Santals, because it will have impact in Maharashtra also, where there are huge tribal population, Andhra Pradesh, of course, the Northeast. So, it's going to be a very big thing, I think, more than the numbers. The personality of Murmu is going to decide this election, and which all looks set that India is set to have a first tribal president. There is no doubt about it.
All right, let's also take that to Mr. Javadekar. Mr. Javadekar, BJP is known for surprises. Earlier we saw President Kovind. Now we have Draupadi Murmu's name. As Mr. Iyer was mentioning, that social messaging is very important. How do you read that?
It is not just social messaging, let me tell you, because this is the philosophy on which this government runs. See, it is the government of empowering for the empowerment of poor. It is not government of entitlement. And therefore, what we have seen in last 8 years is जल से नल से जल, बिजली to every घर, then Ujjwala, then Prime Minister Awas Yojana, then Shauchalaya toilets, 12 crores of the toilets, and 50 crore people given health insurance, 5 lakh rupees free treatment, and then improvement in education, improvement in opportunities, creating new sector of skills, and at the same time, it is even the minorities and all sections are taken together. So what Prime Minister always says, सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और सबका प्रयास. तो ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण. This is the philosophy on which government works. She represents that philosophy in a way. And therefore,
yes, sir,
there would not be any other choice but her, because this is how we want to, and our ideologue Dindal Upadhyay used to say that the Antyodaya, the last man in the queue, must be given justice. And that is what party has done, and under leadership of Modi and Nadda as a president, and they have declared it.
All right, but Mr. Tulsi, let me make sense of what you said in the response to my question earlier, that this is a fantastic choice of the NDA. Now, we all know that President of India is the first citizen of the country, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Don't you think having a consensus candidate would have been an ideal situation?
Well, that's all right. Let there be a fair division of votes, and then that will enhance the status of the incumbent. But I would like to say one thing to Mr. Javadekar, and so a simple thing that one of the wise men said: "Don't tell the world what you can do, show it." So when anybody emphasizes that this is what I have done, this is what I have done, it actually means that a lot was undone. And you need to convince people by saying, and you also recognize the weakness. Otherwise, one doesn't have to say. The work should speak for itself.
That is what is speaking.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that it in no way lowers the prestige of the office of the President of India, merely because the opposition has set up a candidate who is equally worthy. But let there be a contest, because it is from the synthesis that the truth emerges.
All right, Mr. Sujit Kumar, as Mr. KTS Tulsi says, that let there be a contest. Why a consensus?
Yeah, but the numbers game is already settled, Kritiji, because BJD has 2% of the electoral college votes, and with that, the nomination of Ms. Murmu is well above the halfway mark. And today, Honorable Chief Minister Naveen Patnaik has already committed his support, the support of our party. And in fact, he has appealed to all the MLAs and all the MPs of Odisha to support the candidature of Ms. Murmu, because as I've said, it's a great moment. It's a matter of pride for the entire state. So we have one Congress MP from Odisha in the Lok Sabha, and we have 9 Congress MLAs in the Odisha Assembly. And of course, all the BJP MLAs and BJP MPs and BJD MLAs and BJD MPs are going to vote for Ms. Murmu. So I don't think there's any debate about the numbers game anymore. Ms. Murmu's election is almost certain. And I'll go back to the symbolism which you referred to. I think No, her nomination, her candidature is certainly beyond just symbolic posture by BJP. I think yes, there is some messaging. BJP definitely wants to get electoral advantage out of this nomination because as Ms. Nadda himself pointed out while announcing the candidature of Ms. Murmu yesterday, that she is the first candidate from the east, and Honorable Prime Minister has been talking about Purvodaya. So there is certainly the political angle to it. But as I pointed out, she is one person who has risen through all the hardships, and her entire life is testimony to what someone who is dedicated can do to reach the pinnacle of success, despite what destiny handed over to her. So coming from a very, very humble and downtrodden background, she has risen and she has committed herself to the service of the poor. And today what she is because of her hard work and dedication. So I think there is much more than just messaging and symbolism.
All right, there is much more than symbolism or messaging, but talking about the political impact, Mr. Iyer, given the fact that we'll have elections in the states very soon now, help us understand the political ramifications of the picks of the opposition and the ruling NDA.
Well, I do not see any particular message in opposition deciding on Yashwant Sinha because at this point of time, Yashwant Sinha is known as a very, very bitter critic of the Prime Minister and the BJP. And the irony of this election, is that both the candidates are BJP background. One is an official BJP candidate and another has spent 22 years in BJP. And has just come to the opposition side, and opposition did not have a candidate. See, that itself is a telling effect as to what is the purpose of opposition putting up a candidate. Rather, I would have appreciated if the opposition could have waited for the NDA was naming as candidate, then decided. Because a contest is always welcome. I agree with Honorable Member of Parliament Tulsi ji. But this is going to be a unique situation where the allies who are in UPA will have second thoughts. See, what about Trinamool Congress? After all, Yashwant Sinha resigned from Trinamool Congress and then to contest the election. Now, Mamata Banerjee has to think of her own voters who belong to districts like Purulia, to Midinapur, all those parts of southern Bengal where there is a sizable population of tribals who are thrilled and delighted by this development. So, see, there is going to be a lot of churning even among the allies of United Progressive Alliance, UPA. So, this is going to set off a lot of debate. Of course, the Prime Minister has been emphasizing that his whole purpose is to give representation to classes and sections who have hitherto not been represented so that they feel empowered. This has been his message right across. So whether it is Mahadalit or whether it is OBC or even within OPC sections which have never got an opportunity at political offices, that messaging will continue. So definitely BJP will take it forward and say, look, because just now Mr. Tulsi mentioned, but what is it that you have done? Well, this action of picking or giving the first the tribal president will be a feather in the BJP's cap, just as giving the first Dalit president went to the Congress when K.R. Narayanan was chosen.
All right, I'll take a quick response from Mr. Tulsi on that. There will be more churning in the opposition alliance, sir. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I feel that while it is significant that both the candidates are ex-BJP, but that can also create a big problem for the BJP, because there is a prospect of division of vote, and if that happens, if the vote gets divided, the difference is so narrow that the decision can be overturned. It can go against the BJP. So, therefore, it is indeed a masterstroke that a tribal woman has been chosen to be the President of India. But nevertheless, the question of there being both the candidates from ex-BJP, and they have their own vote bank, it could turn out to be a liability.
All right, quick response from Mr. Javadekar before I close the show. Yes,
Just
Mr. Javadekar.
2 sentences. I I am not against the contest. Tulsiji, you are contesting. Okay. So there will be contest, fair contest, that is democracy. But there is also no ban on daydreaming. If somebody is thinking that
No, I'm not.
there's a chance in, so I have no problem.
Why should I dream?
All right, so that's a very interesting debate. But thank you so much, Mr. Javadekar, Mr. Tulsi, Mr. Sujit Kumar, and Mr. Iyer for this discussion. Thank you so much. We'll see how things pan out now. But that's a wrap from our side. Well, viewers, that's all we had in this edition of Perspective. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sansad TV. Namaskar.